The roosters of Mbano had just begun their morning chorus when 6-year-old Ife stumbled out of the hut, barefoot, her eyes swollen from crying through the night. Her mother, Mrs. Smith, had passed away 3 nights ago. The lingering smell of herbs and smoke used during the burial rites still clung to the air like a ghost that refused to leave. Her elder brother, Ike, tried to distract her with stories and fireflies, but nothing worked. Their father, Mr. Smith, once a respected schoolteacher, had grown cold and distant. His eyes no longer searched for his children's smiles. They now searched only the horizon, or maybe the bottom of a bottle. Barely 6 months after her mother's burial, a new woman moved into their home. Her name was Ngozi, but she insisted the children call her Mama Nena. She brought with her 2 sons, Uzo and Akane, both older than Ife, both strangely quiet around their mother but loud and rowdy when she wasn't watching. At first, Ive thought it was just a new phase in life, one of those changes adults called God's will. But soon reality showed her how cruel that will could be. Mama Nena's smile was like honey laced with poison, sweet at first glance, but deadly. When it touched the skin, she flogged Ife for the smallest errors, spilling palm oil, sweeping too slow, speaking too much. Once she beat Ife until she fainted over a broken clay pot. Ike tried to shield his sister and tried to confront the stepmother. His efforts only earned him a deeper loathing. He was sent on endless errands that took him farther into the bush, late into dangerous nights. Then one day he went and never came back. There was no search, no alarm, and no inquiry. Mr. Smith, once a man of fierce justice, simply nodded and sipped his palm wine. If watched as her father sank into silence, into shadows, as though his soul had been eaten from the inside. The village whispered. Was he under a spell? Did Ngozi know something? But no one acted. The cruelest moment came not with a slap or a belt, but with a bucket of water. Ife had spent 3 hours fetching water from the forest stream. Cold, muddy paths beneath her feet. She returned, sweating and breathless, the clay pot balanced carefully on her head. Mama Nena looked at her, then tipped the pot over with a sneer. "You will not drink that," she snapped. "My urine is cleaner." Ive stood frozen, staring at the shattered clay pieces, water soaking into the cracked earth. Her stepmother disappeared behind the house and returned moments later, holding a tin cup, warm, yellowish liquid swirling inside. "Drink," she said, pressing it into the child's trembling hands. Ive's lips quivered. Her knees gave in before her pride did. She dropped the cup, spilt its contents, and fell to the ground in tears. That night she cried herself to sleep again, her dreams soaked in dread. Ike's face would appear in her dreams, smiling, reaching out, then vanish into darkness. Mbano was a village where fences were low and gossip was high. Whispers started traveling faster than footsteps. Children who played near Ife's compound returned home with strange stories. "I saw Mama Nena push her. She makes Ife eat scraps meant for the goats. She talks to herself in the night, chants things." Old Mama Adizi, who lived next door, often stood by her fence, watching Ife work like a servant. Her own grandchildren were never treated like that. One morning, she approached Mr. Smith with a bowl of yam porridge. "Your daughter needs food," she said gently. He looked through her, said nothing, took the bowl, and placed it on the ground. Then he walked away. Something had hollowed him out. It was during the rainy season that Ife began to notice something strange. Her stepmother had forbidden her from entering the back room, the one behind the heavy red curtain. It was always locked, but sometimes, when Mama Nena thought everyone had gone to sleep, she would sneak in. Ife started listening at the walls. She heard murmurs, not just talking but chanting, rhythms, humming, whispers. That didn't sound like they belonged to one person. Sometimes there were smells, hot palm oil, blood, and smoke. One night she crawled to the doorway and peeked through a tear in the curtain. Candles lined the walls. Her father sat on the floor, his eyes blank, a rope of cowries tied around his neck. Mama Nena stood behind him, whispering into his ear, in a language Ife did not know. On the floor in front of them was something worse. A boy's shirt, torn, blood-stained. It was Ike's. After that night, Ife changed. She spoke less, thought more, and her eyes, once wide with innocence, narrowed with haunted understanding. Something had happened to Ike and her father. He wasn't just bewitched. He was claimed. A week later, while fetching firewood, Ife noticed something strange near the edge of the stream. A goat. jet black, standing still, staring at her with eyes red as burning coal. It didn't move, didn't blink. She stepped forward. It didn't flinch. Then in a low, almost human growl, it said, "Leave or follow him." She screamed and ran, dropping her bundle. When she returned home, Mama Nena was waiting. A calm look on her face, a knowing smile curling at the corner of her mouth. "I see the forest speaks to you now," she said. "Just like your brother." Terrified and desperate, Ife did the unthinkable. She went to the village shrine at dawn. The priest, Dibio Konkwo, was an old man with a blind eye and a voice like dry leaves. Few children dared speak to him, but when he saw Ife, he didn't laugh or scold. He simply nodded, as if he had been expecting her. "You carry your brother's shadow," he whispered, placing cola nuts on the ground and muttering into the wind. "The woman in your house is not just a wife. She is a hand of the old river. She feeds the dark. She fed it your brother. She will feed it to you." Ife's throat tightened. "My father? Their bond is sealed. She fed him palm oil and blood. His soul is asleep. His heart beats, but not for you. What can I do?" she asked, tears in her voice. The priest drew a strange symbol on her palm. "You will return here on the night of the crescent moon," he said, "and you must bring any of her belongings she values most." That night, Ife snuck into Mama Nena's room. She wasn't looking for gold or charms. She was looking for meaning. Beneath the woman's bed, I found an old mirror, cracked but polished, wrapped in red cloth. Inscribed on the back was a name Ife didn't recognize, Obianuju. She touched it, and the mirror whispered, "She is not who she says she is." She was never meant to be a mother. The next morning, Mama Nena stormed around the house, screaming, "Who entered my room? Where is it? Where?" I've said nothing. She buried the mirror in a calabash, hidden in the priest's grove. The priest told Ife to watch out how Nena would end. She will end up losing everything in the future. It has been 4 years since Ife's life turned out to be miserable because of her stepmother and the absence of her elder brother. Her father has remained like a vegetable. The days crawled by, each one heavier than the last. Ekene, the quieter of the 2 stepbrothers, had always been strange. He watched Ife too closely, said her name with a certain breath that made her skin crawl. One night, with Mama Nena away at the shrine and Mr. Smith in his usual daze, Ekene approached Ife in her room. She was lying on her mat, half asleep, when the door creaked open and the air grew tense. "Ife," he whispered. "Don't scream." Her eyes flew open. She sat up quickly, backing against the wall. "What do you want?" she whispered, terror taking hold. "I just want to touch you," he said. "You're not really my sister." He stepped closer. She screamed. That's when the candles flickered violently. The air dropped cold. The walls seemed to breathe. And then the sound. A deep guttural growl echoed from behind the curtain, the same curtain that led to the back room. Ekene froze. Then the curtain lifted on its own. What stepped out wasn't a person. It was Ike or something wearing Ike's face. But his eyes glowed like coals and his skin was pale and dry like clay. He didn't speak. He just stared at Ekene, and Ekene began to convulse. His legs gave out. He fell to the floor, mouth foaming, eyes rolling. Ife shrieked and scrambled away as the figure of Ike knelt beside him and whispered, a word that made the windows rattle. When it was over, Ekene lay unconscious, his body soaked in sweat, shivering as if ice lived inside him. And just like that, Ike's figure disappeared into the shadows. When Mama Nena returned later that night, she saw Ekene's state and went still. Her face didn't show fear. It showed recognition. Then she turned her gaze on Ife and said only one thing. "He has chosen you." Ekene remained silent for days, his eyes wide open but unseeing. He mumbled to himself in broken sentences, often screaming at things no one else could see. His brother Uzo, usually full of pride and taunts, grew frightened of him and began avoiding Ife entirely. But Mama Nena, she didn't weep. She didn't plead to the gods. She knew what had happened, and then she knew why. That night, while everyone slept, she crept into the forbidden back room. Ife, who had learned to move like a shadow, followed barefoot, her breath barely a whisper. From the crack in the door, she watched. Inside, the room was now transformed, no longer just a shrine. There were bones tied with hair, pots filled with black liquid, a dead fowl hung upside down, its blood dripping into a carved wooden bowl. And in the center, lit by 12 candles, was a book wrapped in skin. Mama Nena opened it with shaking hands. "O spirit of the deep soil, I beg thee," she cried in a tongue not human. "Take what I owe you. The girl life and leave my children for me. I've left without letting Mama Nena see her." The next day, Mama Nena set out to the edge of Mbano, to the forest where the Onyamuo, the feared native doctor, lived. His hut was said to be built with the bones of goats and children, his fire never dying. "I want her gone." Nena spat as she dropped her payment on the ground. A necklace made of her late husband's fingernail clippings. She has become an abomination. The native doctor took the offering with a smirk. "You wish death upon a child of fire," he warned. "You're offering blood for a flame that was never yours to quench." She insisted. He agreed. That night, back at their compound, as Nena boiled a pot of herbs to begin the dark ritual, her sons, Ikeni and Uzo, began to scream. Aken's eyes rolled into his skull. He clutched his chest and banged his head against the walls, yelling, "It burns! The fire is in me!" Uzo ran outside and began eating soil, crying and laughing. His body twisted, limbs jerking, until he collapsed at the compound gate, foaming at the mouth. Nena dropped the calabash she held. The potion smoked and hissed. The wind howled. Something ancient had turned its face toward her. And that night was not a funny night. People of Mbano said the screams could be heard from 3 compounds away. Chickens flew from their cages. Dogs howled. Rain fell only on their roof, a curse condensed into a storm. By morning, Akane was mute. Uzo could not walk. And Nena, she aged before their eyes. Her once proud face now sagged with boils. Her hands trembled. And still, Amif stood unharmed. News travels fast in Mbano, even faster when it smells of death. Just days later, a stranger came into the village. A man dressed in simple white, with piercing eyes and a soft voice that made elders pause and children stare. His name was Pastor Obina, and he had been transferred from a distant town. No one expected him. No one summoned him. But he said, "The Lord sent me where the ground cries with blood." He called a service that same weekend, and that day under a broken sky and before a silent crowd, Ive stood up. Her voice shook, but her eyes did not. She told the pastor everything. About her mother. About the beatings. About Ike, about the urine. About the room with blood. About the boys. The crowd gasped. Women wept. Men shifted with discomfort. But Pastor Obina only said, "You are brave. You are seen, and you shall be free." He knelt before her and prayed, thunder rolling in the distance. Then he said, "I will come to your house tonight. I will meet the spirit that dares to stand between you and your freedom." The air in Mbano turned thick as dusk fell. Thunder rolled across the horizon, though no rain came. Pastor Obina walked alone toward the Smith compound, his Bible clutched in one hand, a small bottle of anointing oil in the other. People watched from their windows. Children peeked from doorways. No one followed. No one dared. Ive stood at the door waiting. Her eyes didn't flinch. "She's inside," she whispered. Pastor Obina nodded. "Let the heavens bear witness." He stepped into the house, and immediately the candles blew out. A scream echoed through the walls, sharp and inhuman. From the corner of the room, Mama Nena emerged, her face twisted with fury. Her voice doubled by something darker behind it. "You can't take her," she growled. "She's mine." Obina raised the Bible. "She was never yours." Suddenly, Nena began to convulse, her body bent backwards, her hands clawing at her own throat. She shrieked and ran around the room, crawling up walls, slamming her head into the ground. Then she dropped, breathing hard, and confessed. "I killed her mother," she cried. "I mixed the herbs slowly, just enough each day. The fever was no accident." Gasps erupted outside the door as neighbors crept closer, drawn by her cries. I sent him away, to the forest, to never return. I called the spirits to take him as payment." She turned to the wall, then staggered to a hidden latch behind a curtain. With trembling hands, she pulled it open. Inside, on the bare floor of a locked, windowless room, sat Mr. Smith, gaunt, beard overgrown, eyes wide and blank. I silenced him with juju, fed him roots that killed his will. He was once strong. Now he's a husk. She collapsed. I just wanted peace. I wanted a house, children, a man. I gave everything to the shrine, and it still came for me. The villagers had gathered by now, speechless, some in tears. No one moved. No one knew what to say. But Pastor Obina stepped forward and declared, Let her judgment fall not by our hands, but by the hands of He who sees all. And let this house be cleansed. He anointed the door, prayed loudly, and cast out the remaining shadows in the name of light. The night after Nena's confession, she disappeared. No one stopped her. She didn't say goodbye. Just packed her things before dawn, head wrapped, eyes sunken, and slipped away like the dying scent of smoke after a house fire. Her sons Akane and Uzo followed behind her, silent, their minds still fractured, their spirits clearly gone. And though she left with her body, her shame and curse lingered in the air of Mbano like a wound that refused to heal. 3 days later, as the village still reeled from the revelations, Ike returned. It was a quiet morning. Birds chirped as usual, but then a figure walked down the path to the Smith compound. Tall, lean and familiar, Ike was pounding yam when she heard the footsteps and her heart skipped. She turned slowly and dropped the pestle. It was him. His clothes were torn, his beard grew, his eyes held stories no child should carry. But it was Ike, alive. They embraced in silence, and he wept, for lost years, for their mother, for everything. I thought I'd never find my way back, he said. But something, or someone, kept pushing me. A voice kept saying, I'll go home. She needs you. Mr. Smith, now slowly recovering under Pastor Obina's prayers, saw his son and wept like a child. That day, for the first time in years, he said a full sentence. My son has come home. Word of Ike's return spread like wildfire. Some said it proved Nena had no power over destiny. Others said Ike had been protected by the very spirit she tried to manipulate. As for Nena, she never found peace again. She tried to settle in a distant village, but people whispered. Crops she planted withered. The ground rejected her footsteps. Her sons, once full of arrogance and mischief, wandered the streets mumbling to themselves, covered in dust and shame. 2 months later, she was found lifeless in a roadside hut, her eyes open, mouth frozen in a scream. No one claimed the body. And her sons? Last anyone heard, they roamed from market to market, mad, barefoot, begging and muttering of red-eyed goats and girls they could never touch. With Nena gone and her sons lost to madness, Bono slowly exhaled, as though the entire village had been holding its breath through years of darkness. The Smith compound, once cursed and feared, became a place of healing. Ike, though still young, bore the weight of 1,000 stories. But she didn't break. She rose on with Pastor Obina's help, with Ike beside her, and with something even deeper, her own spirit. Every morning she helped her father bathe in the sunlight, gently speaking his name until he began speaking back. Every evening she sat under the mango tree with Ike, sharing memories of their mother. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they cried. But always they remembered. The villagers no longer looked at Ike with pity or fear. They greeted her with respect. They sent her gifts. Old Mama Adiz even said, she walks like one touched by both shadow and light. Pastor Obina visited often. He didn't preach at Ike, he listened. One day he offered her a choice. You've seen what darkness does, he said. But you also carry light. You can use your pain as a weapon. Or as a lantern. Will you walk with me to teach others who suffer in silence? Ike looked at him, then at the skies above Mbano. Now blue, gentle, free of the heaviness it once bore. She smiled. Yes, she said, I will walk. And so Ike began again, not as a girl who had been broken, but as a girl who had been reforged. Her story would be told for generations, not just as a tragedy, but as a testament that even in the deepest darkness, a single ember, no matter how small, can light the way home. Years passed. Mbano changed. Children grew. Houses were rebuilt. The whisper of the past faded into stories told under the moonlight. And in the heart of it all stood Ife, no longer a broken girl, but a woman of quiet strength. She helped raise orphans, comforted widows, and reminded everyone that wounds, even the deepest ones, can be healed. She never forgot Ike. They lived as survivors, as siblings, as protectors of each other's memories. Their bond, once torn, had been made whole by truth and tempered by fire. Mr. Smith lived out his days surrounded by the love he once forgot. And when he passed, it was with a smile, whispering, Thank you, my daughter. You saved us all. Evil may flourish in silence, but truth will always find its voice. What is hidden will always come to light. Children are not as powerless as the world believes. The spirit of resilience is stronger than any spell. Justice, though slow, never forgets. And light, no matter how faint, can survive even the darkest shadows.